The weeks following Cobra's arrival were defined not by the noise of combat, but by a terrifying, pressurized silence. The reign of terror had achieved its primary objective. The ledger books, monitored obsessively by the imprisoned leadership in Bangu, were once again balanced. The extortion rackets, rebranded as emergency contributions, squeezed the last drops of liquidity from a population already choked by the Third Command's external siege. The favela was solvent, but it was spiritually bankrupt. Mateo, operating from his fortified command post above the Valao, watched the social fabric of Rocinha disintegrate. The eyes that met his in the street were no longer fearful, they were vacant, hollowed out by humiliation. Cobra, satisfied with the financial reports, stalked the alleys like a victorious occupation general, blind to the reality that he was ruling over a powder keg. He mistook the absence of resistance for submission. Mateo knew better. He knew that in the favela, silence wasn't golden, it was sulfurous, waiting for a spark. The Third Command, watching from the surrounding hillsides through high-powered binoculars, recognized the shift before the ADA leadership did. Their strategy of economic attrition had evolved. They realized they no longer needed to starve Rocinha into submission. Cobra was doing a far better job of breaking the faction's grip than their snipers ever could. The enemy shifted tactics, moving from a siege of violence to a siege of whispers. Messages began to filter through the porous borders, promises slipped under doorways, whispered threats turned into offers of amnesty. The Third Command wasn't offering liberation, of course. They were merely offering a change of management, promising a return to the old rules, where the tax on breathing wasn't so high. To a population brutalized by Cobra's sadism, this cynicism looked dangerously like hope. The inevitable fracture occurred in the Labrio sector, a high-ground area that Cobra had particularly devastated with punitive raids the week prior. It didn't begin with a bomb like the depot attack, but with a simple, catastrophic act of omission. A lookout, a young boy whose grandfather had been humiliated by Cobra's men during a collection run, simply turned his radio off as the sun set over the Dos Hermanos Mountains. A path was opened. An elite assault team from the Third Command, heavily armed and knowing exactly which routes had been left unguarded, slipped into the upper favela like oil into water. They didn't come to hold territory initially, they came to sow chaos among the already demoralized ADA ranks. The first gunshots rang out not at the perimeter, but deep inside the ADA's own territory, near a crucial ammunition cache. The sound shattered the fragile silence of Cobra's regime. Mateo, jolted by the crackle of his radio, immediately recognized the specific tenor of the gunfire. It was close quarters, frantic, the sound of a perimeter collapsing from within. Reports flooded in, screaming of betrayal. Residents were pointing out ADA safe houses to the invaders. Some were even actively assisting them, moving barricades aside. The concrete empire wasn't being battered down, its doors were being unlocked from the inside. Cobra, enraged and incredulous, barked orders into his radio, demanding a counteroffensive that his confused and terrified soldiers were incapable of executing. He couldn't grasp that his own brutality had forged the weapon that was now turned against him. Mateo stood on the balcony of his command post, looking up towards the Labrio sector, now flickering with muzzle flashes. He saw the grand design of the prison bosses crumbling in real time. The loyalty they demanded, the fear they cultivated, it had all evaporated. He realized with chilling clarity that this wasn't a battle to be won. The faction had lost the hill weeks ago when they declared war on their own people. Now it was merely a matter of survival in the ruins they had created. He chambered a round in his rifle, not to defend the empire, but to cut a path out of its collapse.